Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I've told you 1,000 times on this channel that words mean things, okay? In this video, there's a couple of instances where I'm going to show you that words mean things. And folks, it's like Kid Rock said, I was born at night, but not last night, baby. And that's the other theme of this video. Now listen to this, folks. Now remember, don't forget, Ripple Swell starts on 2 days from now, okay? That's the backdrop to this video. And I'm linked to one of my sponsors, folks. They have Ripple private equity on their platform. They have the sign up today and get $1,000 and link $2 on the site right now. And let me tell you what, folks. I've told you this a lot. And a lot of people are going to be kicking themselves one day. They're going to be like, I had this chance. I had this chance for XRP and Ripple equity. I just didn't take it. Well, XRP is available on one of my sponsors, which is Uphold. Links in the top of the description. You can buy XRP as I sit here. I may buy some today because of what I'm about to show you. You can also buy Ripple equity, private equity, on Link2's platform, and that link is going to be at the top of the description too. You can click on either one of them, and you can tell them DAI sent you. Now I want to show you why you need I want to show you why you might want to have some. And by the way, I own Ripple equity and I own XRP. Okay. Now, we showed you the clip, or a little clip from Fox Business Maria Bartiromo's show this morning about this. And then Eleanor Terrett tweeted this out. Remember, Eleanor Terrett's with Fox. Per Ripple spokesperson, this morning's report on an expected settlement between Ripple and the SEC is false. Report on an expected settlement between Ripple and the SEC tomorrow, 11:15, is false. She is sure to point out the date here, which I find is kind of interesting. Then I had just seen the clip. It's important that you and I both see the full clip. Now I'm going to play you because there's two things that I get out of this. Okay. Now, by the way, the girl that's in this clip, her name is Natalie Brunell. I want to give her full credit. Natalie Brunell did send me a direct message after I had tweeted this and put some things out on social media, and she made it very clear that she did not know anything about a Ripple settlement. So I respect her for replying. Now, she is, from what I can tell, a Bitcoin maximalist, okay? So what she did do is, in my opinion, I think there's two things to get out of this clip. First one is that this clip felt like, I'm not saying coordinated, that's the wrong word, but it felt like the whole point of this clip was to draw a parallel between FTX and Ripple, and that's the part that offended me. I'm not saying that's what they were doing. I'm just saying it sure felt that way. It felt like it was designed that way. You judge for yourself.
Welcome back. Well, the crash in Bitcoin continues this morning. Bitcoin now below 17,000 as the saga of crypto exchange FTX explodes. The CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried, investigated in the Bahamas after losing nearly $2 billion in investor crypto and declared bankruptcy for the company. Joining me right now is Coin Stories podcast host.
Look, the whole clip's about Sam Bankman-Fried. I don't want to play it. It's like 7 minutes. Whole clip is about FTX and how it's this criminal enterprise and all this until you get down somewhere. I think it's pretty far into here. Let's see if it's right here.
Sell. So you sell where you have liquidity. Does this FTX story have the potential to create wider losses in more assets and more traditional assets? I know you're expecting a settlement tomorrow in the lawsuit between the Securities and Exchange Commission and Ripple.
Okay. Now, she said, I know you're expecting. Now, what this Natalie Brunell is saying now is, I didn't say that, and I didn't know anything about it. That's what she's saying. Okay. So the question is, why did Maria Bartiromo set that up? And there's another question. Watch this.
SEC's filing from 2020 alleged that Ripple Labs and two of its executives raised over $1.3 billion.
Now, right here. See how the thumbnail switches over? SEC versus Ripple settlement expected tomorrow. Maria Bartiromo intentionally did a setup that there's a settlement tomorrow. Someone in the graphics department types in SEC versus Ripple settlement expected tomorrow. That's a pretty freaking specific thing to type in, folks. And we know from Natalie Brunell, because she direct messaged me and told me, and she does it in a tweet to Charles Gasparino saying, no, I didn't say that and I don't know anything about it. You'll have to ask them about that. I'll show you that in a second. So, but let's listen to her words because it confirms, I think, that Natalie Brunell's telling the truth. She doesn't say in her response, hold on a second. I got to hang that up. I'll call my wife back. Listen to what she says, because words mean things.
Unregistered digital securities offering. This is a separate case, but your thoughts on whether any of this has the potential to take down other markets like the stock market?
Okay, so she's nodding her head, but she has not said, yeah, I'm expecting a Ripple settlement tomorrow.
Absolutely, Maria. Well, it goes to your first point. When contagion happens, it's because everything is cross-collateralized and the system at large based on credit is so fragile. So we do see Bitcoin drawing down, and we can see other assets drawing down as people liquidate in order to cover their margins and their shorts. And so I think what's important to know about...
Now she's about to start talking about Ripple. She still hasn't said anything that means she thinks there's a settlement expected tomorrow.
SEC and Ripple, and it'll be interesting to see what the verdict will be. Is that
See, she's saying that it'll be interesting to see what the verdict. She's not saying that she expects a settlement tomorrow. She says verdict, as in verdict by the judge.
He charged Ripple with violating securities law and argues that it passes the Howey test. It says that it's a common enterprise and investment contract. And
now, philosophically, she and I completely 100% disagree on Ripple and all. She's obviously a Bitcoin maximalist, and I get that. That's fine. That's not the issue here. That's not what I'm focused on. She did not know. Maria Bartiromo set this up for a reason and puts it on the thumbnail for a reason.
I'm an enterprise, and the big thing I want people to remember, no matter what happens tomorrow, is...
Okay. Look, folks, this is all happening fast. She did say tomorrow. I just surprised myself. I thought that I've played it a couple of times. Let's go back. We got to hear that again.
In a common enterprise. And the big thing I want people to remember, no matter what happens tomorrow, is right now you can go to Twitter or Google.
No matter what happens tomorrow. So I'm going to have to go. Let's pull. Well, we're doing this real time, folks. Okay, right here. Hi, Charles. In the clip, those are your network's graphics and headline, not mine. I responded to a general question about crypto fallout. I would ask CEO attorneys for Ripple or SEC about the trial status. Thank you. So that's not what she said. We're going to play it one more time. This is unfolding as we speak here, folks. Watch.
I think what's important to know about the SEC and Ripple, and it'll be interesting to see what the verdict will be, is that the SEC charged Ripple with violating securities law and argues that it passes the Howey test. It says that it's a common enterprise and investment contract and a common enterprise. And the big thing I want people to remember, no matter what happens tomorrow, is...
What do you mean what happens tomorrow? I'm about to clip that out.
Right now, you can go to Twitter or Google and you can find Ripple's CEO. And Ripple is the largest holder of its own token. Sound familiar? So if there's a CEO, if there's a company, if there's a pre-mine, a foundation, an ICO, it's not Bitcoin. And be careful trusting your life savings to a CEO.
Wow.
Okay. So right here, we're going to call this out. So I asked the question to Charles Gasparino, Eleanor Terrett, Maria Bartiromo, her show, and Natalie Brunell. Does anyone have the contact information of the graphics guy who was told to create the SEC versus Ripple settlement expected tomorrow thumbnail? I'd like to interview him. All right. So now we've completely parsed the words, and I'm going to ask her that. I'm going to take out that clip and I'm going to put it right there underneath this comment and ask her about what she meant about tomorrow then. Okay. In the midst of all of this, and we saw Charles Gasparino and Eleanor Terrett trying to say no, and don't forget, because specifics mean things too, folks. This right here, this catches my attention. This morning's report on an expected settlement between Ripple and the SEC tomorrow, in parentheses 11:15, is false. It's almost like if you get real specific, you create enough specifics there that when it's 11:16, then you didn't lie. You know what I mean? My antenna's up. Look, let me reiterate. Charles Gasparino and Eleanor Terrett have been great in this whole thing. I am not trying to give them hell, but at the same time, on this channel, we don't tolerate a lot of bull crap, and this is another example of that. I'm not attacking Charles Gasparino here. I'm attacking the SEC tactics, and I know how they play ball. He did this the other day. Scoop, contrary to speculation about Gary Gensler looking to grant SBF regulatory monopoly on crypto exchange with IEX, March meeting between two sides was described by a person attending. So he's got a source at the SEC, I guess, or a source that was at the meeting, as a 45-minute lecture by Gary Gensler on what he wants from a crypto exchange. Scoop 2 of 2. He made no promises to SBF and ordered them to provide much more in the way of disclosure to the SEC about their model, follow-up meetings, da-da-da-da. So anyway, Gary Gensler didn't do anything wrong, is what this is, okay? Well, I asked Charles, when we first started uncovering ETHgate, this was what the SEC told Charles, which later down the road we found out complete lie, because now they're not saying that ETH is not a security. What they told Charles, they said SEC enforcement sources tell Fox Business the logic of the agency's case versus Ripple is that the company's infrastructure is still being built out. So XRP, the token which was used to finance the thing, is considered a security. Ethereum infrastructure is totally built out and has been for years, and thus it's clearly a commodity. Well, that's not what they say now, folks. That's not what they say now, and it wasn't true then either. And they knew it wasn't true, and they tried to send him off in a direction. Now, check this out. Breaking, Coinbase has 15 million USD stuck at FTX. Now, you got to watch this. This FTX thing is freaking wild, and BitBoy, as everybody knows, has been all over it. Watch this clip.
Do you think Sam is going to jail? What do you think? Like
Sam is going to prison. I have enough evidence to put him away for 20 years at least.
Oh, wow.
But when people find out what he's doing, tax evasion, racketeering, RICO laws, counterfeiting, when people see what we have, and it's going to come out, because look, we have every project he's ever screwed. I mean, we have audio recordings, we have text messages, we have emails, and people don't even talk about this. His attorney, Dan Freiberg was the mastermind of the greatest poker cheating scandal of all time, which was Ultimate Bet in the early 2000s. Literally had Phil Hellmuth, Mike Mattisau, Parad Freeman. All of these guys were big poker players. They had promoting this site. And Dan Freiberg worked with a developer to come up with something called God Mode, to where one player could see the other player's cards. And so you were going to win every single hand if you wanted to. Dan Freiberg, SBF's attorney, was the mastermind of that. And he was working at FTX. So when people really started to understand the fraudulent activity that was going on there, they're going to be absolutely shocked.
It seems to me like you're saying that it's way worse than people.
Okay, so the question is, did FTX have God mode? Here's another question. I'm going to skip down a ways. We know JP Morgan banked Mt. Gox. Does anyone know who banked FTX? This is Chase's an ideal partner for Mt. Gox. On the Mt. Gox, simplify your life with cash deposits. You can link your JP Morgan account, I guess, right? But you can do it with Mt. Gox too. Now, Brad Sherman, who hates crypto, had tweeted out a whole thing about the collapse of FTX, and he and Elizabeth Warren they're all doing the standard thing. When I think that a lot of these people, a lot of these politicians are majorly exposed on this thing. So we won't waste much time with them. Rand Nooner, as usual, has embarrassed himself. I want you to listen to this clip. This is when Brad Garlinghouse yesterday was on the Twitter live thing, and they all started attacking Brad Garlinghouse. This might be one of the dumbest, most embarrassing questions I've ever heard. This Rand Nooner is a complete joke, folks. This is like asking Brad Garlinghouse, no, Brad, talk about reaching, it's like you've made a conclusion that you think a guy's not a good guy, and now you're trying to say, it'd be like me saying to Brad Garlinghouse, Brad, now look, you don't rob banks, but you have to admit, if robbing banks was legal, you would be robbing banks. That's the equivalent of how stupid this question is. Listen to this.
I think transparency is our friend.
Brad, I wonder if you would be as transparent if you weren't regulated in the United States. I think it's all good and well to say, transparency is our friend when you're living in a jurisdiction where, if you're not transparent, then that could count against you. But the truth is that, many of these token companies are established in jurisdictions that aren't very regulated. In the BVIs, in the Canary, I don't know, all these little islands. How much of that is because you're forced to, and how much of that is because you think it's the right thing to do?
Well, look, we're a private company. We're not forced to do. When I talk about the XRP markets report, and again, we started that, I think it was in 2016, maybe it was 2017. We're not required to do that. We're choosing to do that. We chose to do that a long time ago because we embraced, this is the right way to run a business. Not because any regulator told me that.
That is so stupid. Now, I am totally baffled by this because Charles Hoskinson has jumped into the frying pan again, and I don't understand why. But I also want to revisit what I said at the beginning of this video, which is words mean things, because I've picked up on words here, and everybody needs to be aware of it for a couple of reasons. John Deaton was in a thread, and if you read the thread, somebody, I can't remember who had started. Somebody asked a question. John Deaton said nothing about Charles Hoskinson. Well, no, he did right here. He says Charles would be in there talking to regulators the way I'm just posing questions. Like I said, you don't have to assume Gensler was doing anything wrong behind closed doors with SBF to ask why did SBF have such incredible access to regulators. Charles should be in there talking to regulators way before Sam Bankman-Fried, in my opinion. That's my point. He was actually saying something good about Charles. You know what I mean? So, and then Charles Hoskinson comes in to take another shot. I literally spoke before Congress this year. I've engaged with regulators extensively. What doesn't help is making an entire community believe that Joe Lubin bribed the SEC to go after Ripple. This madness damages any hope of a healthy relationship. And then Charles goes on. Now here's where words mean things, folks, and don't forget this, because almost every single time that Charles Hoskinson has said anything to John Deaton or anybody in the XRP community about this, he has used this specific term. And I don't think it's by accident. And I think everybody listening to my voice should pay attention to it. He keeps saying the word harassment, harassment. And he's saying it for a very specific reason. I believe that some of these people, because I know how these politicians think about what they've tried to do to social media in 50 different ways to silence free speech. A lot of different ways. Well, what's one of the ways that they use? Oh, that's hate speech, or that's this. Well, that's where this is going. That's what this is. And these people, the truth is their enemy. And when people are out here telling the truth, and people try to argue, I'm not harassing. I've even told people specifically, don't harass anybody. That's not what this is about. Show them the facts, show them the video, show them the truth, And then you want to argue with me about the truth? Charles Hoskinson can come on my show. I've said it 1,000 times. He can come on the show. We will go through the timeline of ETHgate. We can go through John Deaton's video library. We can go through John Deaton's timeline. And Charles Hoskinson can show us what grand conspiracy is. And that has nothing to do with harassment. But he's using that word for a reason, folks. You write it down. I'm 48 years old. I'm not stupid. That word is being used intentionally. Harassment. Look, he uses it again right here. So, are you going to ask your fans to stop harassing me? He keeps using that word because at some point, somewhere, these politicians, they're going to say, oh, they're social media, so we've got to pass some whatever, harassment, and they're going to try to hang that around the neck of somebody, okay? Watch. This is how these people think. It's an end around to shut you down. That is what it is. That rhymes, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, bottom line is, but you know what? Charles Hoskinson, the whole time I've been in this space, has been a totally reasonable guy. And you know what? My antenna is up now. And I've played you this clip before, okay? This is where he's describing how he's the only one that did not take the Ethereum in the ICO. I firmly believe, this is what I believe, I firmly believe that somebody, some regulator or politician or somebody has said, hey man, look, you're vulnerable in this whole ETHgate thing too. If we go down, you go down. That's what I believe. I think somewhere, somehow somebody has scared him or something, and that's why he's all mad. Because listen to what he said about the Ethereum he got.
I flew down to Miami on my dime. A lot of people.
And by the way, I'm not saying that Charles Hoskinson did anything wrong in the Ethereum ICO. I've always said I think he was the only good guy in the situation from what I can tell, and I think he's the only one that didn't take it. But there again, words do mean things.
I think 20, 30 people eventually stayed in that beach house, and we spent a whole week together, and back end of it, we decided, let's go do something crazy. And I took over the business side for the first 6 months, and what I did is I structured basically the ICO and how we were going to raise money and operationally what it would look like. And then Vitalik, Gavin Wood, and Jeff Wiltshire got together and they worked on the technology side. Jeff did the Go client. Gavin did the yellow paper and the C++ kind. Vitalik kept iterating and improving the overall idea. And then Joe Lubin and Anthony were kind of financial backers, and Mihai helped me with the structuring of the entity. We both lived in Switzerland for a little bit. And after we got everything set up, we kind of had to make a decision whether we wanted to be like Ripple and be a for-profit entity building a protocol, or if we wanted to be more like a foundation. And I strongly favored a for-profit entity because I felt that all the founders would leave to the wind if we didn't have incentives to stay, whereas others favored a not-for-profit. Eventually, a decision was made in June of 2014 to do the not-for-profit. I left, and eventually Joe left, and I think 7 of the 8 founders have left now and gone to do other things. The only one that stayed was Vitalik, and he's still at the foundation.
Do you regret leaving?
No, not at all. It was mutual. There was really no place for me, and I wanted to build something.
So he's the one that did not take the tokens. I thought he had said it in that clip, but I've got a clip somewhere. I'll find it where he said he did not accept the tokens. I think he said he gave them to his secretary. The question is, did he accept the tokens and then give them to the secretary? Because people like Gary Gensler, that's all they need. And who knows? But I mean, Charles may just. I mean, it may be that he just thinks that we shouldn't be stirring the pot on ETHgate because that'll just cause problems. I don't know. Maybe there's too many politicians that are involved. But he sure seems nervous about it, is all I got to say. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family that Charles is just acting a little irritable here on this thing, and it's got my red flags up. But I'm not saying he did anything wrong. It may just be that he doesn't think it's right.